So, this is one of my favorite parts of my work. We are now live. Let's start it up. Today's video is kind of a response to current events and, well, this thing which blew up. Figuratively, it is so gorgeous, and I just need an excuse to talk about it. But also, over today and tomorrow, I'm going to be talking about how to make beautiful circuit jewelry for yourself and or loved ones, anyone who might appreciate this kind of nerdy, gorgeous thing. And we're going to start with freeform jewelry, and we're going to go on to creating circuits with the Bantam desktop PCB mill, so even if it's the last day, you know, you're there tomorrow being like, ah, what do I make? You can still use a PCB mill to create an instant circuit. And also, finally, for taking it further into the PCB realm, what you can do to make jewelry with those. So this is my charmware thingamajig. We're going to talk about that more. But for today, let's first take a look through these links, and then we're going to build a project. Hopefully, we'll see if any of these designs actually pan out. So this awesome person, whose name I unfortunately am not sure how to pronounce, created a gorgeous mechanical tulip, which responds to a touch on this leaf at the bottom with a servo opening this flower with surface mount LEDs soldered, I think to brass rods like Mohit usually uses in his designs, and it's incredibly gorgeous. Just wedding this mechanical design that's smooth and slow and elegant with this really beautiful LED design that doesn't look garish or tacky. It just looks beautiful, and it clearly caught the attention of the world. It's got 86,000 likes right now, and with good reason. Like, look at this thing. You can do all the different colors and stuff. You got these beautiful patterns on the wall from the wires. He's put on all these different, put up a bunch of different sort of explanatory images with close-ups and stuff, and I can't get enough. Look at it! It's so pretty. Stop! I can't handle it. I just want to stare at this all day. I don't want to get any work done. So pretty. You can see the internals down there. All kinds of gorgeous stuff. So if you go to this guy's profile on Twitter, you can find more about this, and everyone's of course asking where they can buy it, etc. But it's so much cooler if you make something yourself, right? So this person also, I'm just gonna say Jiri because I know it's probably not right, but I gotta use a name somewhere. Okay, so he's published a few previous projects on Hackster, including this Arduino Flake, which is one of the first freeform, really popular circuits that we saw go around recently. A sort of holiday-themed project, and it's super gorgeous. I should also mention Mohit's page. Yeah. But yeah, then we've also got this ornament that he published in December. Super beautiful, and just using these bare bones materials. You know what? I should actually look at... Did he solder to the battery? No way! That's a terrible idea. Let me double check that actually, because... No, I'm curious, because this is a problem that I've struggled with, is how to attach the coin cell without using a really ugly battery holder. It does look like it's soldered to the battery. All right, that is a decision. A decision and a half. He's also come out with a PCB version of this, so if you want to skip ahead and look at how to turn freeform circuits into PCBs, just check that out. We've also got a couple other examples. If you look up freeform on Hackster, we've got this little Christmas tree, also made with those brass rods that Mohit popularized. And then also we've got this freeform button and LED on/off tutorial by Arnav Sharma. Gorgeous. I'm going to close down most of this stuff because I need my processor power. Oh yeah, and of course, if you want to see more of this stuff, you can look at the circuit sculpture contest that Hackaday has been running, which also has sort of promoted this among the community. So I got excited about this. there's this project that I made back in 2011 called the Luminary Pendant that a couple of other people have recently built since this hype got started up, and it's very exciting. So check that out if you want a quick tutorial for something pretty that works as a pendant. Then we have this freeform soldered earring for which I just put up a tutorial, and I want to try doing another thing today because this is a great excuse for me to mess around with soldering stuff in the lab. You can find all this stuff on my profile. It's Hackster.io/glowasky. But I wanted to talk about the sort of skills that go into this. So I have a big background in making wire jewelry, sculptures rather. So sort of 2D drawings. In fact, this image, I couldn't find it in my archives, but I found it on Google in a bunch of like clip art sites for sketches of elephants because it looks like a sketch, but in reality it's something that I made out of twisted wire, which is a genre that I was really into for a while. And you can see a few different examples of this, like this is a flower that I made for my college roommate, and that sort of wiggly wire there, you can get that by taking apart old guitar strings. So you can do sort of this straight, pretty wire, and you can also get a different textural effect by using that. Basically, guitar strings and many other string instrument strings are wound with, for example, nickel wire. And that means that you can pull it off if you cut the string, and you get this little twisty sort of helix of wire, and that can give you some visual contrast. I also, oh yeah, this is another example of that, but also using a nylon guitar string at the top, I made these little teardrop shapes by melting two ends together, like bending and melting together. And it's also a similar thing to what I did in this swirly one, where again you have a nylon guitar string that's just wrapped with wire. And so these are a few different ways that you can add more variety into a circuit sculpture that isn't just straight up hookup wire or brass rods or whatever. And there's all kinds of different twisty techniques you can use as well that can fasten stuff together pretty reliably even without solder. So let's close those. So for today, what I wanted to do is grab, I've got these beautiful RGB LEDs, and they're common anode LEDs. So they share a ground pin, and then they have red, green, and blue positive pins. You can get RGB pin or LEDs in two varieties, common cathode or common anode. So basically that depends, all that affects is like, do they have a common voltage pin and then, you know, 3 separate ground pins for the different colors, or vice versa. And these are the vice versa version. And you can see actually if we grab a little coin cell and sort of mess one of these up. Oh no, we've got some shorting going on. Yikes. Oh wait. Maybe these are common cathode. I don't know, common anode. Okay, anyway. I was wrong. It's the positive side that's connected. And so you've got green when you connect this leg, and then when I flip it around and connect the other legs, I've got red and blue. And of course I can connect any combination of these. So if I do red and blue, I get purple. Oh, actually it all goes to the red. That makes sense, because if you put a certain amount of voltage through an LED, it's going to want to go through the path of least resistance. But that makes it kind of easy to like switch colors and stuff without using multiple LEDs. So for example, in this Brainium device that I was just messing around with from Avnet the other day, it's got a red and a blue LED all in one. And I showed the other day how that makes purple. And then, so yeah, for the next couple iterations, I want to show you how I made this thing, which is a double-sided PCB in a very simple shape that I just cut out using the Bantam desktop PCB mill from a shape that I sketched by hand, which is a pretty simple, friendly process, and it doesn't mean that you have to sit down and spend a bunch of time designing in a Eagle or KiCad or whatever. And then, yeah, we're going to talk about PCBs. So, I was looking at what I wanted to build with these, and there's all kinds of stuff you can do. You can do like some beautiful Art Deco designs. I was thinking about like a Sputnik design, or like a comet, which is still really tempting actually. But for today, I'm reminded of some earrings that my mom used to have that were a peacock feather turned upside down with beads attached to the ends. And this is going to be kind of an upside down version of that, I think. It actually might be. Yeah, I think it's going to be upside down. I don't know, we'll see. Oh, you know, it'd be kind of better if it were upside down. It's just a matter of which end attaches to the ear loop, right? So we're just going to make this and then see which end ends up. Yeah. The one thing that my heart dearly wants is some LEDs with extra long wires attached, because that would be such an excellent medium for making circuit jewelry and circuit sculptures. That's what I really wanted when I made the light up leaf pendant. I was very chagrined that I had to use a piece of copper wire, like add something besides the LEDs in order to make this thing become a full circuit, which if the legs on the LEDs were longer, I wouldn't have had to do that. Someday. So I don't have any guitar strings with me, but I do have a bunch of copper wire, and I'm curious to see how this looks with the silver legs and the white LEDs. I think it could look weird, it could look great. I also played around earlier to make sure that there wasn't any enamel or anything on the surface of the copper wire that would mess with my ability to solder to it. And another thing that you can do with copper wire or plate or anything that's really beautiful is you can put a patina on it. And since I'm doing a peacock leaf, I think this would be a really cool idea for something to do with that. So the way that you do this is you just grab your little pliers, hold this thing in the pliers, because otherwise you're going to drop it and burn everything because it gets hot. And then try not to burn your camera while you apply heat with a lighter. Last time I used this lighter in a video, I ended up accidentally setting some paper on fire. But oh yeah, you gotta find like the right sweet spot so it doesn't just get covered in soot like it's doing right now. I forget where you want it to be in the... Oh, okay, that's clearly not where it is. Anyway, so you just apply the lighter, and if you do it right and don't do what I just did, which is cover the whole thing in soot, which requires basically just putting it in the right part of the flame, then you get this beautiful sort of multicolored patina effect. You can kind of see it on the end there. And it's sort of affected by how fast it cools, as well as, you know, if you move the flame away from a certain spot, that's where the patina is going to appear. Patina, patina, I think they're both valid. I never learned this thing. Oh yeah, here's another example of the PCB jewelry we're going to talk about later, probably tomorrow. Ooh, this is from Lumen Jewelry. It's gorgeous. I've admired their stuff before, but I got this particular one from Drew Festini. So nice. Alright, so my idea for this peacock thingamajig is that I want to take this LED and basically invert it, and then make these tendrils extended and multiplied with the copper, and then use the two central wires. What color is it? That was red, right? Yeah, red. Perfect. Look what a beautiful pattern this makes. To hold the battery in there. I'm really distractible right now. I had a lot of this episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. So anyway, I'm going to first make sure that I can get my battery into the right place. The thing that I usually use for doing twisted wire sculptures is a pair of round-nosed needle nose pliers that do not have this sort of, you know, sharp profile, which also... Oh, you know what? I forgot to check whether that's the ground or negative leg, but that's easy to test later. If you're working with like a round wire and you don't want to mar or scuff it, it's better to use something that doesn't have any angled edges or little grippy teeth like this has. But it'll be fine. Okay, so I'm going to try and see if I can just use a sort of springy mechanism to wedge a battery between the two sides here. And in order to do that, I think I'm going to make it so that they sort of intersect, by which I mean they overlap but don't overlap too much, so that I can push them back against each other or through each other. And that means that I'll be able to adjust the amount of tension. It's always hard to get the right amount of tension. Okay. So see, here we have this, and I want to make this smaller so it goes through the other one. The round nose pliers also help you with getting nice, smooth curves. Okay, so now that these can pass through each other, I can sort of do this, and that means it gets a nice, really tight little frame there. So which way does this want to go? That way? Not that way. This way? This way. Cool. And I have a little bit of, so I should make this one this bigger one. I have done it wrong. Because the ground part of the battery is much smaller and is surrounded by the positive part of the battery, so you have to be a little careful about how you arrange those. So what I'm going to do is get this smaller, and then I'm going to bend it, or just pass it through the other one, so that its little pointy bit is on the inside, and that will mean that it will sort of hold against the ground part of the battery with a spring-loaded type situation. And at the same time, that will keep it from contacting the outer positive part. So I'm just being a little careful here to try and get a smooth curve back. Okay, cool. Just bend this actually, rather than trying to pass it through. There we go. So now this little springy bit faces towards the inside, which means it should be able to touch the ground part of the battery without contacting the edge. Let's check that. Okay, pretty good. Not perfect though. I need to angle this guy a little bit more this way. Okay, that's pretty good. Except that we are tilted here. It's pretty decent. There's kind of a danger zone, but it's kind of close. So each time I put these on, since I'm not using a holder here, I'm going to have to readjust these a little bit in order to make sure that it's not shorting in any way. But that's a pretty sturdy hold. I've got no shorts. No, for real, I'm wearing a skirt. And we have this cute little LED guy. Wait a minute. Which could be a cute little sculpture in and of itself, you know. Whee! But, you know, I forgot part one, which was that I was gonna bend these all around so that they would face the other way. That's fun. I do not mind. Well, I guess we're just gonna have this be at the bottom then, and we're gonna have everything else curve up around it this way. I wanted to bend the legs all around to the other side so that you'd have this sort of self-contained thing after looking at how it looked with the LED pointing to the outside, but it'll still be pretty. So now I'm going to begin phase 2, which involves bending these little guys. This is looking more and more like a little fella. And I do want to have a battery in there pretty often just so that I can check that there's plenty of space for the battery in there. I'm kind of trying to gently push this so I don't get too many little kinks in the wire. With a more flexible wire, what you can easily do is straighten out kinks by just sort of running your fingers along it, pulling it through your fingers, running your fingers along it, doing this. And you can work it back and forth so that you kind of get this, like each time you bend it and curve it, you straighten out the tiny little kinks in there. So this is going to be a sort of bulbous bottom to the feather. And I was looking at reference photos of peacock feathers online and found that I think the most attractive ones are sort of like this one, which is more round. And the ones that are longer, I'm not quite as excited about. But to each their own. And then they have this sort of beautiful round eye in the middle. So I'm going to see how I can accomplish that. Oh, and the reason that I'm wearing headphones is that I was looking back in order to find those ancient photos of those wire drawings. In fact, I just made them by laying them on a scanner and scanning them. In order to find those, I looked for a really old archive of my blog from like 2009 to 2011. And I found a link also to this old playlist that I made called October Rain. And it's beautifully rainy in San Francisco right now, so I'm going to go listen to this, which is why I have these headphones on. I'm sure I can't like legally play any of this stuff for you, but I can listen to it, and if you go to this, look for this October Rain playlist on 8-Tracks, then you can listen to it too. Cool. Alright, back to what we were doing. So now I have this, and I want it to branch out into multiple floofy things, multiple longer floofy things. Ooh, you know, this will kind of give us a gradient for the circuit, won't it? So I've got this roll of copper wire just from the hardware store, and since it's made for electrical stuff, it doesn't have any kind of enamel coating. If you get copper wire from the art store, you might find that it has a colored or clear either rubbery or enamel coating, and that you would, if it's enamel, you kind of have to burn it or sand it off, and if it's a rubbery coating, you just have to kind of like peel it, and neither of those is really fun, so we're gonna go with this. So this will be a little awkward because the copper is rather thicker than the LEDs, and I would like something that looks a little bit finer, but at the same time this will be very sturdy. And I've had my fill of making really delicate projects for a while. I'm trying these days to make things that are more longer lasting. And so if I make this about twice the length that I want, that means I can wrap it around this guy and use both ends, which makes things a little bit easier. I might end up wrapping the leg instead, because I think it's a little easier to work with. So let's try that. I'm just starting to twist it around here. I'm gonna just sort of do this. I'm using the tip to sort of make sure that I'm putting pressure right on the end of the wire so it gets tucked in nice and tight. Now the challenge here is to make sure that it's not going to slip down. This is pretty sturdily held, and copper is kind of a soft metal, so that probably will actually stay in place. But if I were using a harder metal, I would want to do some more kind of finagling to make sure that this isn't going to slide around. The other nice thing about this design is that this is going to be at the bottom, so gravity will kind of hold it in place at the bottom of this arc. So now I'm going to curve this wire back the other way, and I'm just going to do that by running my finger along it. Too much. But I kind of like the shape that this is taking. which is good because obviously since this is live, we're gonna end up with what we end up with. So I do wish I had some. I do have some thinner, finer wire that I could use to finish the ends, but I think I'm gonna stick with this. Swapping back to look back at my reference some more. Is there anything I can do to make that eye pop a little more? Maybe. I might want to add like another circle of wire in the middle here or something. Oh man, what if I used stranded wire? Like stranded hookup wire? Since I'm getting this kind of gradient between silver and copper, I don't really want to put more silver at the end here, and that's just an aesthetic choice. But if I did, I might choose to put some stranded hookup wire there so that I could sort of attach it all in one place and then fan it out to make these feathery tendrils here. Maybe a note for another day. See, this is already kind of like it can lever around, which is partly why I want to make sure that things are tightly attached. Oh man. This playlist is so nostalgic. Right now we've got the Fallout 3 song, I Don't Want to Set the World Out on Fire. I mean, it's by the Ink Spots, who were like an old school band, but like that was sort of what popularized it. Okay. So I'm going to put the other piece on, and then I'm going to bend them both and arrange them around so that I come up with something that I like. Here's piece number 2. I'm going to just go ahead and bend that in half. And I'm not making sure that they're exactly the same length because I don't necessarily want them to be the same length. And I can get a tighter curve by holding this in the pliers and then pushing on it. But again, I run the risk of marring the wire, especially if I grip too tightly to try and get a really tight radius on there. Oh no. I'm trying to rush it. This is bad. I could easily spend like 3 hours doing one of these things back in the day, so. For the record, we're not going to do that today. I have plans. But yeah. If I start unconsciously singing along with the playlist, then please do me the favor of ignoring it. I'm going to attach this one further down, I think, so that we have a little bit of asymmetry. I always prefer art that's a little bit asymmetric, which is good because precision is hard. Now I've kind of put myself in a pickle here where I have to get this wire in between those two, and there's not a lot of space to do that. I try to wrap the little coil as closely and tightly as possible. Since I started further down the loop, or the leg rather, of the LED, I have a little more space to do that. But it can be fun to sort of vary the tightness of the wrapping as well. I should have left those other pictures up that I had. I'll show you again in a second what I'm talking about. That's pretty tight. Although, that's pretty good. Okay. So now we have multiplied this from 2 legs into 4. And this is where we're at. I'm going to pull up that other picture I was telling you about. Where's a good example of it? This one is good. Okay. So in this photo here, we have a piece where I've kind of varied the tightness of the wrappings. If you see sort of up there and over there, there's bits where it like is very tightly coiled, and then parts where it sort of is more loosely and more openly coiled. And you can easily vary that. And I think I'm going to want to put at least a couple more pieces on here to sort of make it denser. And I'm going to test again to make sure that I have plenty of space for the battery in here. I do. Okay, cool. Where do I want to attach the other one? This isn't very tight right now. Cool, better. All right, yeah. They usually have a bunch of them right at the top, so maybe I'll... Do I want to do 4 more? That would take a while, but it would be a good demo. Let's start with 1. So I'm going to take this new piece and wrap it around the old one. So that means sort of holding them both steady and pushing against the axis of the new piece. It's fairly stiff wire, so this is being a bit of a jerk. Let me take this battery out. Another thing you can do, of course, is sort of pre-bend it. And that has mixed results, because you can't like bend it all the way in a spiral to start off with. For anyone who's just joining us, I'm making a peacock feather themed freeform circuit earring. It's going to be quite large, but it should be pretty lightweight. Ooh, this is very stiff wire for the fine, small nature of what I'm trying to do. So another way to sort of try and get this to coil around is to grab both sides and twist them against each other. And as you can see, I am getting a few little marks on the copper, but that's due to the difference in hardness between the copper and the pliers, but I think it'll be okay. Most of the other freeform examples that you're going to see just use soldering to hold stuff together, but I always like the aesthetic of using wraps. And if you want to see the soldering technique, you can go look at their tutorials. Right now on our Rain playlist, we're featuring a song from Amelie. This is a really nice thing to do on a rainy day. So, it should be obvious, these 2 legs out here are not going to be doing anything in the circuit. I'm just going to have the red color coming out from the LED. Alright, so this inner one is rather longer than the others, which doesn't really make sense, but maybe I can make that into sort of the eye of the peacock feather. A peacock feather is also an interesting choice for the Valentine's holiday, because some of them have kind of a heart shape in the middle. Like this guy. Like, that's plausibly a heart, right? I don't know. And if I wanted to really do this well, what I would do is try and hook it around the other side. So I'm going to try and bend a little tiny hook into the other end of this. I'm not going to spend a lot of effort and wire wrapping it around the other side completely, but I am going to do a little hook. You'll see what I mean in just a second. Let's see if that works. Looks okay. Let's see if I can scoot this down the length of this wire a little bit. It'll make it a little bit more sturdy too, to have this sort of connection between the two sides, which is always a consideration. I don't really like that hook sticking into there though, so I'm going to squash it down with my pliers. It kind of buckles under the pressure. It's not the most gorgeous thing ever, but I think it looks fine. Gonna check with the battery again. Whoops. Wrong way. At least I know that it holds pretty well. And it doesn't damage the LED or anything to put the battery in the wrong way. It just doesn't work as a circuit. Okay, so we have this so far. I think it's a good start. Oh no, the playlist has gone to a commercial. I might have to switch to Spotify. Oh, let me see if I can actually pull this out for you so you can see it in the corner here. Oh no. More commercials. But okay. In a second you should see whatever's playing at the top there. Right. There we go. Yeah, sweet. We have a little ticker showing the music that's playing right now. I've never done that before. So right now I'm just sort of bending these around to see if I can get a nicer sort of aesthetic going. And I think I like the idea of emulating the center of the peacock feather with these little loops. One thing that kind of annoys me is that all this extra copper isn't really part of the circuit. It's not necessary. They're attached to inert, inactive legs of the LED. But that's fine. Artistic license. In my other freeform earring that I showed, which is now a tutorial, I actually had every part of the circuit be completely functional. And you can go that road as well, which is kind of more legit. This is looking more like a fingerprint, and I'm not really into it. So let's try curving this out the other way. You can kind of go from the side, you can go from any place with these pliers. I used to make ear cuffs as well, like little ear decorations out of wire, because I would lose them really, really often. And so instead of buying a new one each time, I would just make some new ones. It's a good skill to have. Plus then you know that no one else has that jewelry, right? still not sure how I feel about this one here. Maybe I'll curve it back. Yeah, I think that'll look nicer. Now another little trick that I can employ is to use this end to curve that around and then kind of cut it off. So that way I don't get the marring that I was talking about. Especially if you're trying to get a really nice tight curve, I can do that. And then just, well, let's use this one. And I cut it at a nice angle so it looks kind of pointy. You might want to use, like, wear safety goggles while doing this if you're afraid of little bits of wire coming off and going into your eyes or whatever, but I've done this enough that I'm pretty nonchalant about it. Okay, so we have a nice little loop there. Let's make it a little straighter there. I'm really tempted to sing along to this song right now. I actually did a sort of remix of this little vocal mashup with a couple of other songs. It's coming along. I have to decide which way up I want it to go. Like, I kind of wanted to do this, but I already, like I said, kind of shot myself in the foot that way. I meant to flip this LED the other way around. I'm gonna add a completely gratuitous resistor, which kind of goes against the philosophy of freeform circuitry, because it's literally not going to be doing anything, but I like the idea. Well, the LED is going to be red though, and these LEDs are kind of blue. Forget it. We're not doing anything gratuitous. I mean, okay, this entire thing is gratuitous, right? It's essentially just an LED throwy, plus a bunch of extra wire that's solely for aesthetically gratuitous reasons, but whatever. I'm the artist, I get to make the choices around here. Let's see if anyone's chiming in. Is anyone else listening to this playlist? Because you totally should, because it's amazing, especially for a rainy evening. Manda salve. At least it looks like salve, which is like Latin for hello. I'm not sure what manda is. If it were Spanish, it'd be like send. These aren't quite long enough to do what I want them to do. So what if I just shorten these other ones? Like I said, I want it to be kind of broader than it is long. Oh no! Losing that beautiful curve. I don't really want these to hook onto each other. What if they did though? Would that look cool? No, it looks stupid. So we'll not do that. We will try and curve this one more extremely over at this end, so I don't have to trim it off. And do that. That's pretty nice. Feeling a lot of right now. But we'll see where this goes. Using my nail as kind of a brace to curve this around. And what I want to do is have these outer ones really sort of face out like they do on an actual peacock feather. It's looking kind of like an octopus right now. It's going to be very much up to the viewer's interpretation what this actually is in the end. So of course, peacock feathers don't actually curve around this much in the outer parts. But that's clearly sort of the accepted aesthetic of them. And it's what I like. If you look at this leaf thing from before, there's like so many gratuitous little swirly things, so I guess that's the word of the day, isn't it? Sort of gratuitous, but for aesthetics. That's what art is for me. I want to put a ton more little bits of wire on here. And it would kind of make sense because right now it's sort of flexing around a lot. So I'm going to have this last one be the hook for the earring. Unless, I wonder how it would look if I had that other piece. And then it would kind of curve over the ear. That's a thought. But I think what I'm going to do... So I was thinking, like, what if I put the ear wire here? That would look kind of awesome. And then these bits would kind of hook around up to the ear. Let's see how it's looking right now with the light on. Almost did it backwards again. I quite like it. It's definitely asymmetric. But I think it could have more flair. So let's grab some more copper wire. Yeah. More twists and turns. As you can see, this is an extremely scientific process. I don't want it to be too big and heavy, so that's definitely a consideration. I've made earrings in the past that my puny little ears couldn't handle. I don't want that to happen again, because it means that you have lost all the work that you did on it. But we shall see. It feels pretty light right now. I'm doing another little shortcut that I can do to attach two things together. You can start the process of combining them by doing this. And then sort of leverage them against each other. Ooh, come back. I'm not getting a hugely tight spiral here, though. Come on. And you have to keep them from overlapping each other like it just did there. Just basically just by applying a lot of force. So I'm going to go ahead actually and grab one side of this in the pliers, the other side in my hand. Try to squeeze it down as much as possible. No, it's too high up. This is a good spot. Okay. Finally, we've got some instrumental music on this playlist, so I'm not going to be singing along. Just doing some more wrapping for this coil. Oh yeah. Now we're getting this more sort of abundant feel that you have from real peacock feathers. Ooh, I'm liking this a lot now. It looks more intricate, more beautiful. And I guess this part is going to have to come... Here I'm doing that variation in how densely I wrap it. And I'm going to take this part up and sort of curve it around this way. Oh, and it's kind of cutting 3D. And I'm going to take this and just wrap it around on itself so that I have a nice sturdy hook that's not going to detach from the earring. Gonna come around this side and grab that and pull it through. And then squish it down. Now I'm kind of applying a 3D motion to squish it in a couple different dimensions at once, if that makes any sense, which it probably doesn't. But yeah. Okay, so now we have this. I think that's quite pretty. A little bit of adjustment is still needed to make it the best it can be. Again, I'm using my nails to kind of help get the kinks out of here. It's a little too dense now. I think it's slipped around a bit. Curve this one out. Now another problem I have just created is that now it's being supported from this hook, right? And that means that all of that weight is going to be pulling this to slide down this wire, which means that I need to definitely put a little curve in the end, if not more, in order to keep that in place. This is where it's good that I have this length of wrapping here, because it means that if I curve the wire up here, it's not going to be able to slip past there. Oh, this song is so gorgeous. Again, you should go to 8tracks.com and look for October Rain, the playlist that I'm listening to now. It's very nostalgic for me. I don't like how similar these two are. So maybe I'll sort of open that up a bit. Maybe if I actually loop this guy around through here, that will help keep it in place because it won't be able to slide up. Yeah, so I'm gonna rotate this a little bit in the Z-axis, and that'll sort of hold that down. See how that can't sort of slip through anymore? This art is so much about sort of containment and tension. When I do it, if you look at someone like Mohit or Jiri, they have clearly planned everything out in advance, and so it's very precise, and my art is more sort of free-flowing. Yeah, that's pretty decent. So I have a bunch of these ear wires that I got. Some of them at a local craft store, some of them at Tokyo Hands in Tokyo, which is a giant department store where you can find everything. And so I'm gonna grab this earring. Oh no, I think I'll take the bigger ones because little ones, big ones. I'll take a big one because that gives it a slightly better experience when I'm wearing the earring. It's not as thin, so it won't like be as likely to feel like it's really heavy in my ear. Alright, so I'm going to pull this open with my pliers, like so, and slip this through. I obviously had to decide which side of this is going to be the front and which side is going to be the back. And now I'm just going to close this up with my pliers again. Song with words again, it's so hard not to say them along. There we go. I kind of deformed that loop. Let's see if I can get it back into shape. Ooh! Close enough. Alright. Oh wow, that's really getting kind of 3D, isn't it? I definitely want it to keep looking like a peacock feather, so... I'm going to make this a little tighter so that that other copper piece doesn't slip out again. And now I'm going to put in the battery. My previous Freeform earrings used full-size CR2032 batteries, and those were quite heavy because I had to use 2 of them in the design I was doing as well, so that ended up way too heavy. I feel like this needs a little more tweaking. It needs to be wider. Now that I'm not looking at it through a USB camera. I'm doing some little tweaks to make this be held in place. And every time I twist one part, it kind of twists the rest of it. So I have to make sure where I'm bracing. I'm doing this both for aesthetics and for the structural soundness of the whole thing. That's pretty good. Alright, let's try it on. I'm getting jewelry ads on the little radio thing while I make this. Yeah, that's kind of cool. I should turn off the lights. Here, give me a second. Stop. I'm trying to stop the music. Oh well. Alright, here's the natural lighting. It's still kind of hard to see, but we've got this kind of showing up. And it's very large. In fact, maybe the other earrings would have been better because that would mean that it would be closer up to the ear. But you can always play around with it and maybe like make sure if you're doing a gift for someone what size of earrings they like. I like it. Kind of looks like a little fire. It definitely needs some more work, but so that was part 1. That was making a freeform LED jewelry circuit earring. And the next section that I want to do is about drawing something physically with a pen and turning it into a design that you can use for a PCB. And so that is going to require me to grab a piece of paper and a pen, which, lo and behold, I have right here. I'll leave this there because I think it's pretty. Right, so my pen. Looking for my favorite pen. Where is it gone? Eh, that's fine. I'll use an inferior pen. It's still pretty good. It's a F301 from Zebra. I like these a lot. Anyway, so I need to sketch out my design, and then what I'm going to do is do it in a very thick pen line, like a Sharpie, which will allow me to get a really good crisp image of it. So for this design, what I want to do is I've been experimenting with designs for a Nautilus earring, but I might just do another peacock feather. What do you think? I tried to see actually if I could create the same copper patina on a PCB, and I just ended up burning the FR1 substrate, and there's a little bit of patina on there, but I also rubbed it off with my finger when I was trying to clean it off. I mean, this looks kind of metal, doesn't it? But definitely not a cool, pretty patina. So, what do I want to do with this one? So for this next one, I'm going to be using surface mount LEDs, I think, which are over here. And these are 1206 sides. So these are little red LEDs that are surface mount. And this is how I did this before. This is a wearable tech project, by the way, that is designed to defeat jet lag and seasonal affective disorder, which will be published soon. But what I did in that case was I had positive and negative sides of the PCBs, and I connected those with two LEDs in series on little tiny wires, and I think this can definitely bear improvement. What do I want to do for this one? You know what I really want to do is I want to work on this AI project that I have, which uses a lot of the same techniques, but that comes later. So let's just stick with something simple. I might do a Nautilus. That sounds kind of foolhardy, but I want it to work, so I have a little sort of design sketched up here. I've been messing around with ideas like the red LEDs. I would want to put two of them in series, because it's either that or use resistors. And I have 10 of these red ones, so I could put those in series in little spines on the Nautilus. But that would be for a physical one. Not necessarily. So you can put LEDs in parallel or in series, or like in series this way. And that all affects your design. You know what? I'm going to stop this here for now. And I'm going to come back with a full design tomorrow, and we're going to talk about how to do that. And then, after that, we're going to look at these PCB ones. So that's sort of like step 3. Alright. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed seeing how one of these comes together when it's totally sort of improvised. And be sure to check out those tutorials that I mentioned before about how to make one that's like actually planned out and stuff. So again, that's, let me pull up the tutorial. This music is very distracting. Here we go. So once again, if you want a full walkthrough of how to make something that's very well planned out and meticulously designed and just super gorgeous the first time and amazing and it's just so pretty. And they have like printed out jigs and everything to make it work, then go to Jiri Praus's Hackster profile. And you can find this Arduino Flake tutorial as well as a PCB version of this one and the Orbiment, both from December, which are super gorgeous. This one actually involves a surface mount chip, a teeny tiny little chip that's been included in the ornament, so very cool. Alright, thanks for watching. I hope you have an awesome rest of your What the Wednesday. We'll be back tomorrow with more DIY electronic jewelry for your sweetums or for you. Have a great day.